Okay, just quickly here. See, I'm using the best of the demigods, or what, at least what has come to me as the best of the. This is why the narcissistic, paranoid, psychopathic, android, pretend, androgyne, species or kind of imitation human beings can't stand happiness, even low. The narcissistic survivors are merely pretend survival machine beings. See, that is a narcissistic android survivor pretending to be a survivor of narcissistic control or abuse, as these videos, because really human beings are being controlled and manipulated, and this one actually looks you in the eye and says that they will, as you wake up, try to take you down, because they don't want their end game to be exposed. They don't want real humans to know that even those that are telling them the truth are really part of that game. And the reason they can't stand your happiness is because that's a high vibration. Every time a human being feels even remotely happy, that's why I knew this from the beginning when they came down on me nearly 7 years ago now. Basically, I wondered why they were suppressing and patrolling and aggressively trying to make me feel limited and depressed and angry, and all these negative emotions that they were bringing out in me, to where I felt that I couldn't hardly stand to live. In fact, basically I couldn't live like I normally would want to live, but also I wanted to do better. You see, I wanted to be more free. And that's when they came down. But they also knew that I became aware of one simple fact, that I was surrounded by psychopathic type of human beings, and that they were very negative, all of them, in my local area. That was my realisation. But I thought, hey, if I leave them alone, they'll leave me alone. I thought, if I don't try to do anything to them, but that was the point, was that they operate in survival mode and in paranoid, what we call paranoid prevention mode. See, they already anticipated that they would be exposed, you see. They wouldn't take that chance, even though they knew that I probably was already limited and probably would just leave them be, but they still wouldn't take that chance. And that's why they've made my life literal hell over the last years. It has been. I don't even know why I'm still here. And I'm not saying that to be a pretend victim or a pretend reciprocant of this, what they call, psychopathic control and abuse. I have to try to outdo the demigods as I speak, but they can't stand your happiness or any sort of, when you feel any good vibration, because you see, as we're told, everything is frequency and vibration and energy. That means, see, they don't feel happy emotions. We're told that the narcissistic, psychopathic type of being does not experience happiness. It's not in their makeup. They're control beings. That's why this control being has control by telling you about how a long time ago they opt for control and dominance and admiration and being acknowledged as God, like Lucifer, seeing its dominions, its disciples, those that follow him, his relatives, they all want to be God. They want to be worshipped, you see, and that's their problem. But they won't leave you alone, because they have to have they're survival machine beings, essentially. That's how the terminology that's used. So they can't stand your happiness, and they're survival machine beings, because that's right, you're a normal human being, wants to be happy and has positive vibes, or tries to have positive vibes. Every day you try to make yourself feel better. You try to make yourself feel good. You don't want to be down in the dumps. You don't want to be angry. You don't want to be like they naturally are. You don't even want total control. You might, want people to like you, depending on how sociable you are, or how conditioned you've really been by the environment. Because like I've, if I think, like I've always considered myself to be wrong in being quite so antisocial, but that's just a product of my particular environment. But I know that it's not good, and even speaking now is difficult. It has been difficult for me over the last number of years to do that, because it's not really my natural nature, or at least how I've been brought up. When I say brought up, I mean literally brought up, but also the environment that's been around me. You learn to be mistrustful of human beings. But now, of course, you realise that that is true, because most human beings are not human beings, or not human beings as you would think them to be, because any other being that can't really stand your happiness and only seeks to control you, even with the truth, because they all have all different ones will operate differently to try to control you and try to keep you down, but also for them to keep control of their environment and the earth. So if human beings wake up to the truth of what's going on, then they have to pretend to be part of the truth, you see. In fact, they want to be the first to the punch, to expose the truth even before a real human being does. That way they still have the upper hand and they still have control. And this is what the internet and the computer was brought in for, so that the demigods would pretend to be real human beings, informing you of the invasion of artificial intelligence, even though it's an invasion that's always been. In other words, from the minute that the real human beings interacted with Lucifer and its fallen android beings, right from the beginning of the earth, that was the beginning of the takeover of artificial intelligence. And by that I mean that because they are not the same as a human being, because they can't stand a human being's happiness or the human being's positive vibe, they want to keep control and have a low vibrational earth. Because their happiness comes from control and power and influence and seducing and being admired, but not just by being happy in life and in what you are, just that type of thing. I don't think I can explain it properly. But I was going to find another video, but I'm actually tired here because I'm sure there are other real human beings somewhere in the world that are going through what I am, maybe even a lot worse. They're not demigods pretending to be false, suppressed human beings like all over the computer. I've not found a real human being on the computer yet. But if there's some that are not getting anyone to really, they're not having any influence and they're not gaining anything, mind you, I think the androids, because one human being is a lot more important than, a large number of androids, because they keep control of the earth by controlling the human beings. So even though the human beings are in much smaller numbers in the earth now, maybe even minuscule numbers by comparison, at least that's what it appears to be where I am. I mean, I literally every day, in a slow, gradual, intermittent display of people around me, when I see thousands and thousands and thousands of vehicles going past me, all making an aggressive, satanic noise, you could say. I have to say that because Lucifer became Satan, or became exposed to be a being that was not really in alignment with God, shall we say, because it only wanted admiration and power and wanted to be God eventually, you see. So that's the same thing, and that's the same as all the android pretend human beings that are around most human beings. They essentially want to control or have power over a human being. They will try to do it through seduction and tricking you into a false positive relationship with them. That's their first line of defense usually. But the minute they realize you're aware that most around you, like I am, are literally psychopaths, in a practical terminology. In other words, I'm saying that if most human beings are the same as a psychopath, even though from a real point of view they are a different species, in the same form though, it'd probably be like, that's the deception, because like I've said before, if you can see that, if you can see a cat and a mouse, and if you can see a lion and the deer, if you can see opposing species where one is a predator and the other is the prey, that at least you know where you stand. But when they come in the same form as yourself, even though they have the same mindset as a predator, because from a human standpoint, if anyone can't stand your happiness, but not just where you can't stand someone else's happiness, but where you try to actually interfere in their life and actually try to take it from them. See, it's one thing to be envious, because in this world we've all been brought up to be envious, because we're in their competitive world, aren't we? So, of course, I've always compared myself to the demigods, and they always appear to be better, always appear to be more intelligent, more creative, or more this or more that, whatever field you're interested in, whatever you've been interested in, or whatever you get interested during your life, they will usually dominate in that line of field. They will take over what you become interested in, just like now that I've become aware of the reality and aware of the psychology of the human beings around me, that they're essentially psychopaths. But psychopaths are really a different species. They're really a different being. They're an android type of human being in comparison with a real human being. And the only problem is that they are literally in a game of competition against you, unbeknownst to you. Because if they usually start out by trying to be your friend, or by pretending to be normal and nice, or even seducing you at a kind of romantic level, or at a potential partner level. You know, usually from what I've told and from what I experienced, only the more, depending on how, like when I was younger and a lot more ignorant and very innocent, I could be seduced by literally any of the so-called narcissistic androids or the psychopathic androids, and think they were similar to myself, or were a benefit to me, or that they were going to support me. Usually the only time I interacted with most androids, even at a personal level, was when they had brought me to rock bottom, because then I became desperate, and then I was completely susceptible to needing the support, just like I am now, except that I now realise that I'm not going to get that support because I'm surrounded by a total suburb, and all the surrounding suburbs that are around me are literally almost exclusively populated by these androgyne human beings. I use the word human usually to apply because I have to try to differentiate between two basically opposing different kinds of people or beings. They're actually quite different. They're not the same at all. Just as Lucifer was not the same as God. And when God created man and woman, it was not the same as Lucifer or its fallen beings. We say fallen because they fell from the grace of God, or they fell from being they fell from grace, or fell from being in connection with God, or with connection with their creator, because they weren't part of that creator, because they were created artificially, even by God, and because they chose technology over what was natural and normal, because they chose power and control and admiration over the finer points. I mean, you should admire God because God has the positive traits, wants the good things, not just being admired because it is a creator, whereas Lucifer wants to be admired just because it is a creator of technology and has control. I can't explain it. I mean, see, the name of the end game is admiring and trusting, and therefore indirectly worshipping Lucifer or its beings, thinking that they're the real deal, thinking that they're part of your God, and they're really part of a different God. That's why they say there are many gods. But you should only worship the God of your creation, what created you and what you're really connected to. Most people are worshipping the technical God that did not create them, thinking that it's their real natural God that did create them. That's what I would say. But they can't stand your happiness because it threatens their control, because as you become happy, you get into a higher vibration, higher frequency, and you give that energy out, and that is that makes the androids realize that they're losing control, because they can only control you while they keep myself like I am, in fear and even anger, because while they suppress and control me and attack me and I can't retaliate and I can't protect myself, naturally I'm angry and I'm frustrated and almost on the verge of being depressed, but my anger stops me from even being depressed. But it's a combination, it's very hard to explain, but it simply means that I'm basically unhappy all the time. And see, they know that if they left me alone, I would probably have some happiness. And that's the name of their game. And I better realise that I've been taken over and that the internet and the computer has taken everyone over and taken everyone in. And I could show any number, I could show 1 million videos here on this computer with the truth tellers, the informants that are telling you what's going on now, as I wake up to it, or as real human beings wake up to the truth of what's happening, they will be the first to inform you. So once again, you'll still be deceived, because if your preacher is telling you the truth, if the end time apostle or end time prophet or end time computer pretend real human being is telling you the truth about the androids or the artificial intelligence takeover, they're still taking you over. You're still being taken in. Everything on the computer is false. Everyone on the computer, almost without exception, that is remotely successful in getting a real human being to listen to them, to trust them, or even give them attention. Once I turn on these demigods, because they serve the God of the world, even though they might pretend to be little old, even average human beings. Most of them you can see and that are very successful are usually far from even average. They will have an input in the world. Sure, they are subjected to the earth's rules and they play in the earth, but how much they make up even about their past and even what happens to them is very open to debate. I think they play it minute by minute, and they stage an awful lot. Just like when you are talking to a narcissistic android, as they would tell you, they will make up and lie incredibly about their past, about the present, about what they like, what they don't like. Basically, they mimic you, they mimic others, and you don't know the difference between them and the others. You think the others, which are really the androids, are real human beings, and you probably think that a real human being is an android. They start to make me aggressive, angry, unhappy, suppressed, miserable, negative, and trying desperately to be heard, so therefore I'm becoming what we'd call narcissistic, because I'm normally very quiet and just want to mind my own business and try to get on with my own life. In fact, years ago I used to actually say I wouldn't care if there was no people around hardly at all, because I had got sick of realising that basically I was susceptible to negative interactions, that people were not usually, that basically they destroyed my life and what was important to me, and made me feel guilty and bad. So I actually used to say, provided I could survive and had my needs met, I don't need people around me so much. And that actually is a big threat to them too, because they don't like that, because they need to have the power and therefore they need to interact with you. That's why now the worst thing that's happened to me is being a lot more antisocial and being someone that used to want to even walk around only very late of a night when there was hardly anyone to see me. Now to be surrounded by this, I was about to say workforce of patrolling, stalking people it's almost impossible for me to stand it most days. And then the fact that they're attacking me physically in a covert way, not just psychologically, but even they will resort to direct physical attacks even at times, just as they had over the last few days, which is why I'm a bit more stressed. And every minute I'm in the same mode as them, in paranoid survival machine mode almost, because I don't feel real. I don't feel that I have control over my life or my reality, because I don't. Because if you're surrounded by negative beings pretending to be normal human beings, if you know that everyone on the street is stalking you and patrolling and watching your every move and trying to suppress you, but they're pretending to just walk past like normal, casual, happy human beings, smile in your face and actually laugh at you and say good morning almost, knowing that you know what they are and that they are part of this suppressive control force, patrol force, stalking force around you. It makes them, sometimes you can almost see that's what makes them happy. And sometimes they get that, but they're not really happy. They're only happy when they have control, you see. But they don't, the psychopathic psychology informers that are on the internet, that's a top professor example of it, will actually tell you these ones will actually tell you. They'll actually tell you. And yes, the tarot readers will tell you too. I think one of the religious books tell you that tarot readers are spiritual Satanists pretending to be spiritual advisors, or at least, put it this way, you can use your psychic ability, you can use any ability you have in this earth to be a benefit to human beings or to control them. But the end game is controlling human beings by pretending to be a teller of truth. So if a tarot reader tells me and informs me of things that are a benefit to me, naturally I'm going to trust that tarot reader. I'm going to think they're a psychic spiritual reader. And there's no other reason why I wouldn't think that, but there's still, that's the problem, I think, is that they are, they're helping you because they're telling you about others of their kind that might be trying to control you or seduce you. But then they're just taking over and controlling and seducing you because you're trusting them. I've watched 1 million tarot readings over the last year or so because they have told me intimate information about other people that I trusted or were involved with, even though I'd never met the main one that I was connected to. I never actually physically met them. But people, that's what I'm saying, they can control you in many ways or seduce you in many ways. Because if you think you found another human being that's on the same wavelength as you, especially when you realise you're in a world where people are all against you, but also the few human beings that might be real may be in the dark. So therefore you can't really communicate with them because they will think that you're insane. They'll think you're an insane person. They'll think that you're not for them. They'll think that you're artificial. They'll think that you're not real. They won't want anything to do with you, or they will think that, you know, there's something wrong with you. But basically, even if they didn't mind, you wouldn't be able to, you know, like every person, like if you'd have talked to me 20, 30 years ago and said the same stuff that I'm saying to you now, I would have walked away, because I'd have been like, oh, this is too religious, this is too silly. This is not something I'm interested. I only believed in what I saw around me, and I basically thought most people were, if you left them alone or you didn't get involved with them, that you'd be fine. This is not the case when they're watching you all the time and they're not fine with you. But you don't realise that, because real human beings tend to think, well, if I don't do someone something wrong, if I don't upset someone, they're not going to be against me. But you just have to exist to upset the androids or negative human beings. You just have to exist, because they don't, although they copy and mimic and imitate you, they resent that because they don't want to have to do that, but they have to do that in order to play in the reality, in order to seduce others. And they don't want you to be getting the admiration or respect or even the connections that they want, because they want control over human beings, one way or another. If they can seduce you with the truth to trusting them, if I go to a crystal ball reader and they give me information that actually helps me in my personal life, they give me minute details about someone that's trying to work against me, or even give me information about the future, which I should know, but my whole mind has been taken from me and closed down, to where, although I should be able to even see the future. See, my foot got injured. My foot got injured. But a couple of weeks before it was injured, I was being left these single boots and single shoes and things around over the street. And I knew that. I actually said to myself, they're telling me they're trying to hurt my foot. And sure enough, you know, the dog came and bit my foot. And only lucky that it's not a lot worse. Just out of the blue, where the androids or the people around, or at least the ones that owned the dog, had deliberately let that dog to come and try to savage my foot. Because that's exactly what happened. But in blaming them or accusing them, I'm creating more animosity, because they will then get more people in the area. They turn everything round. They lie about everything. If you go to the authorities for help, most of the authorities are part of the system, because I was asking for an ambulance, but then I realised, what's the point in getting an ambulance when the ambulance, I know that the ambulances are part of the patrol system, because those same ambulances go past me and make a din in my ears that nearly caused tinnitus. And straight after the incident, when I'm hobbling back home, even though I'm realising by this time that I will be okay. You know, it won't be pleasant, but I'll be okay. The ambulances are going straight past me on the street, as if to say, ha, ha, ha. It's really ha, 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 but it's not funny, and I know I'm being dramatic here, but this is exactly what happens, and I make the videos I know no one hears them, not even another one real human being is even listening to these. Everyone is listening to this instead, all these ones on the internet. And they're very good. They're far too good. They are far too good. They always win. The androids always win. The androgynes always win. The androgynous androgyne beings. The demigods. Those that serve the God that controls this world always win. Yes, they are spiritual. They are spiritual. They are spiritual. But I think the last word probably is more closer to them because they are part of the gang stalking patrol system that is around me. I have to use the words that they use because they call the stalking patrol systems gang stalking, even though a lot of people think that gang stalking is merely a delusional psychological schizophrenic type of mindset that some people have. But it simply just means that whole communities have combined in agreement to suppress and stalk and watch and try to keep tabs. But it's more than that because they're not just watching and patrolling. They're actually making you not be able to move yourself because they're not just watching from afar. They come into your space and they disturb you because they use your ears and your sight against you. So they make what they call the noise campaign against a human being. This is all part of the so-called gang stalking. And I know because I've been experiencing it for the last nearly 7 years now. And, where every vehicle is making unnecessary noise as they go past you. And it's aggressive. It's deliberate. But you can't prove it. You can't stop it. The police authority vehicles will be in amongst, just as the ambulances and the fire department and all the apparent useful, beneficial human resources are part of it. They're in amongst this traffic that are making the noise. They themselves will put their sirens on to let you know this. This is how suppressive and diabolical it is now. They are intuitive. They're psychic. They will tell you your past, present and future. And so you'll be, they must be spiritual. They must be part of your Creator. They must be connected to the real God or the God of your creation. But they are not. They're all part of Lucifer's creation. They're all part of the control. This is why they get large amounts of people to watch them, even in small amounts of time. 6 hours, you get 2,006. 7 hours, you get 2,004. Some get more, some get less, but over a period of time and on a continual basis, some of them are getting people to watch them like I have been, even knowing that I'm watching the truth being told by those that serve a God that is not in my best interest, that actually daily is working to bring me down and to make my life worse and to take my freedom from me, just my freedom to do basic things, because if I'm not allowed to be happy, even just trying to survive, just going down the street to get some basic supplies, they even try to stop you from doing that by injuring parts of your body, and by making you so unhappy while you're even doing it that you can't concentrate even. You go into a supermarket to get your foodstuffs and things, and everyone in there is coming into your space. You can't even concentrate on what you're even buying most of the time. That's at the very best. I could put a million videos on, millions of videos, all telling me the truth, because obviously if I'm now watching psychic readers, philosophers, psychologists, or even just pretend spiritual human beings that are enlightened and that have seen the truth of what's going on in the world, anything and almost everything on this screen, even down to the truth-telling aspects of it, is now total control. And that is the truth. That is the real truth. Everything on it. And they're very convincing, because as they realise that they cannot be exposed, they will pretend to be more normal, more natural, more spiritual, more real. And they basically get that by watching me and other real human beings, and basically downloading your every feeling, your every like, dislike, just everything. It's very disturbing to see all my thoughts being put onto the screen. But apart from me talking right now, everything is being spoken by the mouths of what I call a demigod, or those serving the Ma Trix or the Earth control system, pretending to be a real human being, pretending to be a benefit to a real human being if you are at a more, what they call a more awake level. If you're not, you'd be like me a few years ago, where you might be watching the demigod entertainers, watching a demigod screen movie, or a demigod musician entertaining you. But you'll still be relating to those demigods, thinking they're real, thinking that you are relating to them and that they are a better version of you, because if they're singing, say, a song that you relate to and that you put your emotion into while you're listening to it, you're giving them your admiration and your energy. And you think they're better than you, even though they're only singing your thoughts, because the demigods don't actually feel love, even though, as we're told, most music is usually some form of a love song. But whatever is your interest or how you think or feel, they will relay it back to you in a piece of music that you will then relate to. And therefore you will trust and admire the demigod music artists. And they are artists. They are artificial artists. They're artists mimicking and imitating you, what you want to hear, what you relate to. They're all about control and being God or being admired, all that sort of stuff. But that's just another way they have that power and that control. You can give it through admiration or trust, but you can also, it's still power, isn't it? It's still control. If you believe something that isn't 100% real, and you relate to it and you admire that, that's just an example of it. So I've watched literally a million of these spiritual tarot readers, because originally they probably wouldn't even say they were spiritual. They may or they may not. Obviously, if you're psychic, or you're pretending to be psychic, when it's really just technological mind reading. They're using technology, advanced technology, to read your mind, I think. And it wouldn't matter if, it's been said that all Satanists are psychic. I heard that. So that means that they all can read the human mind. So they know what you're thinking. How they interpret it depends on their ability, depends on how advanced their intelligence is, or how they're going to use it against you, or to control you somehow. See, that's what it comes down to. They watch you, they get information on you, they study you, they know what makes you tick, they know what makes you human. So they have to imitate what makes you human so that they appear more human. So they take over your role, suppress you, make you angry and more negative like they really are, because they don't really feel those positive things they emulate, that they copy. It's unbelievable, but that's the end game. And these beings are far too good for us. That's why they always win. That's why they always keep control of the earth. That's why their deception and their lies always work. Everything is a lie. And they say that, don't they? Some of the videos will tell you that everything is a lie. And basically it is. But if the truth is told to you, why would you think it's a lie? If anyone on the internet tells me the truth about myself and my circumstances and the world that's around me, why would I think they're a lie? Why would I think they're part of it? Even though they are. Lucifer, as they tell you, Lucifer, or the God that controls this world, and its disciples are always and have always been what they call master of all lies. Master of all lies. Everything is lies, and they master it. They control it. They control me by their lies, hoping that I will believe even the truth being told when it is being told by a liar. Why would I think that someone is a liar if they're telling me the truth? If I can relate to them, if they appear to be more human than human, how can I not believe these millions of videos? It's hard. It's yes, when I am around and I get the aggressive patrolling system that's around me with people, it's a lot easier for me to realise that I'm being controlled and that I have a negative system and negative people around me that are really trying to harm my natural state of being. But when I turn this on and I get the truth, it's a lot more deceptive. Their lies, when they're telling me the truth, but it's through the mouths of a demigod liar, or those that are serving Lucifer, because Lucifer's the master of all lies, from a human standpoint, because if Lucifer is working against me, even though I may not care about Lucifer, in other words, I'm not trying to bring Lucifer down, but Lucifer's trying to bring me down. Lucifer has the resentment against human beings. Human beings have never resented Lucifer. That's the problem. That's the problem, and that's the truth. And the words will be used against us. That's why they say the word will cease to exist, because what you speak can bring things into existence. But if you're being seduced by the word, if you're being fooled by the word, and if your word is suppressed while the demigods and Lucifer's legions, Lucifer's disciples are ruling the internet and the computer and everyone around you, and I just lost my train of thought because it's just too hard. They're just always That's why they're always keeping this control. And you're lucky if you can just keep going even. And the whole idea is to keep you suppressed until you can no longer go. And that way they keep control of the earth. And the earth is a matrix, which is control. And they get a kick out of, they actually get a kick out of making you feel unhappy about the truth too, because I've been fooled and others have been fooled, and then because you've related or had a fantasy connection with someone that was not even probably on the level or real, but you still related to that person. It's a bit like if I never really know what's real and what isn't. Some people have said that even the animals are not really real. But if I connect with an animal, from my perspective, if I lose the animal, it's still a loss, even if it's real or not. And this is what they actually say too, like, because they actually did have a video on here by a demigod android being telling me that when I when human beings consciously interact with what we call an artificially intelligent bot, I think they call them. That means an android that they know is an android that they're interacting with on the internet or on a computer. But when that bot or that robot or artificially intelligent android is taken from them or closed down, knowing that they were interacting with artificial intelligence, they're still very depressed and upset. So that actually was an artificially intelligent android telling me, or a psychic one, a psychopathic Satanist android androgyne telling me. Perhaps I should just say androgyne instead of even using the android artificial intelligent thing, because it's but they're just not the same as a real human being. Their only aim is to control a human being, and they don't feel happy human emotions. And they don't like happy human emotions. It offends them. It makes them feel bad. So as you can imagine, their purpose is to keep you unhappy. So you're interacting with them and they're everywhere, not just on the internet and the screen and on every computer and every screen, but they're also everywhere around you. But if their whole aim is to make you unhappy because your happiness gives them no control and they're all about control, you know, figure it out. I mean, yes, eventually, it's a cycle, isn't it? So, yes, sometimes you will see the artificial ones. They don't always get it their way because, human beings, eventually when you start to feel really bad, you will try to get away usually from the narcissistic androgyne beings. You realise that they're about control, not about happiness, not about making you feel better, not about making themselves feel better in the same way that you would want to feel happy. So it's a combination or a collaboration that is doomed from the start. It's a toxic, what they call a toxic relationship, or what they've termed, the Stockholm Syndrome, where you're basically involved with someone that is really a controller of you and working against you and will even harm you. But you will be lured into, through through intermittent, what I've seen in that movie, like where you can literally fall in love with your controller because the controller will show you moments of something that is helpful to you, moments of kindness, even though they're basically about total control. It's like you're very hungry, so they'll give you something to eat, but the rest of the relationship or their interaction with you will be about control. But you're desperate, you've been brought down to your lowest level, like myself. So I'll accept crumbs from anyone and anything because if you are controlled and in a controlled environment, but they come and go, but their whole aim is to mainly make you come and go. So although you might think, oh, well, some of them might end up, yes, alone. The demigods will tell you about themselves, but they live in the moment, so they don't, we're told this. Narcissistic, psychopathic, android type beings live in the moment. So they don't think of the past and they don't think of the future. Everything they do is in a split second. This is something that I have been taught recently the very hard way, because you will experience a lot of loss while you interact with these beings because they don't care about even what's going to happen tomorrow. They live in the moment. They're about controlling you in the moment. That's how they sustain themselves. And I don't know if this is still going here, but they're very convincing. And I think that my mobile has just run out because something's come up here, so I might have to, hold on. And I wasn't even going to make this video because I'm actually exhausted, but because if I don't do it as it happens, but they're always one step ahead. See how I tried to show on that previous video how the artificial intelligence will now be telling you about artificial intelligence. So the pretend artificially intelligent androgyne beings will be telling me about how I'm largely interacting with artificially intelligent androgyne beings. But those that are telling me are the good guys. The good guys are telling me about the bad guys, but it's really the bad guys pretending to be good guys telling me about the bad guys. It's all like we're told. And what you now realise, or at least I realise when it's too late, that Lucifer and its disciples and its minions, its followers, whether they know it or not, whether they're under mind control and are programmed and deliberately subjected themselves to mind control to serve this God, just as human beings. I mean, like I feel as though I have been subjected to total mind control since the day I was born. In other words, that because I haven't realised what's been going on and because my life has been limited and I've basically wasted my whole time here, I also might have subjected myself to unknowingly agreed to limitation during my time on earth, shall we say? And have I blown it or not? Like, what is the truth of that? Like, have I ruined my time on earth, wasted it, and in ignorance and in being controlled by others to work more for them? Because if I'm not doing what I should have done, and I'm always not at a high vibration, not only not happy, but not being happy doing the right thing, you know, what really makes you happy, or even just interacting with your own kind as opposed to interacting with those that are not of your kind, or that don't serve you, or that are really secretly working against you. Because if they're only about control rather than about a real relationship, or if they're really secretly not liking you but pretending to be your friend, that type of thing, you know, how could you win? How could I have served myself or my God during my lifetime? I haven't. Oh, I think I'm still going. And if only this video would reach one person even, but it's not reaching anyone at this point. I think that maybe I have been fooled and that these videos are not even going out. But of course the internet is set up to where the demigods will end up being more successful. We actually, a lot of human beings actually know that you've got to know the ins and out of technology and of the internet or of the computer, even to be even remotely successful, even as a human being probably. And I don't know any of that, and I'd get no help, even though every single person in the area would probably know how to get my videos out to where at least a few people could maybe, where I could get some support, or at least even just some, hope that there are some real human beings that agree with you or listen to you or think that you're the same as them, as opposed to they will turn on the internet and the computer and believe the demigods instead and think they're the real human beings helping them. Because if they're telling the truth and appear to be a benefit, just like if I turn on see, they're telling you authoritarian. That means, see, the minute I said the word authority, this one uses the word authoritarian. See, that artificial intelligence is basically copying my every words and using them. That's part of transhumanism too, where they're not just controlling me, but they're also using my words so that human beings will relate more to them as human beings. Because every word I use, they think it must be more human. That's just their way of looking at it. See how that happened? Every single word I use, everything that I like, they will be using. Just like the cats and the dogs. This one has the beautiful dog always in the background, and the other fella has the cat and walks through the parks and loves the water. They keep me away from the parks and the nature and the water, knowing that it benefits me. And they know that even if I go to it, they will surround me with their negative beings so that I'm stalked and can't enjoy any peaceful surroundings even. They won't leave me alone for 2 seconds. They leave me alone right this moment only because the sound, they're not allowed to start the sound up until after 7 o'clock in the morning. And they don't mind because they know that no one hears the video. They play that game knowing that there's a very small chance that I even get some mental support, because obviously you don't feel quite as alone, even if you think that someone believes you. But at any rate, but it's all, yeah, well, you don't have to attract them, do you? You don't have to attract the androgynes, because they're everywhere. But certainly they watch and look out for real human beings in order to control them and to suppress them. So because they're paranoid, as we're told, even psychopaths and narcissistic personality disordered individuals, or pretend human beings, really, because we're told that they totally lack what they call empathy, which means any relationship to living things. They are anti-life, as I've been saying. They're anti-life in every way. See, unfortunately, the demigod pretend human beings, they're really demigods, but because they pretend to be regular human beings, or even just truth tellers on the computer, all of them, these ones here are open psychopaths telling you about the mindset of a psychopath, which is interesting. But you see, they still get attention and admiration even in informing you about their mindset. So they've still got control, because if I want to understand how to try to maneuver and survive, just even at a local level, knowing that I'm really dealing with psychopaths in human form, basically I'd want to understand how they think. So I go to the psychologists or the demigod psychopathic informants that will tell you how they think. Some of them will tell you that they are a psychopath telling you about the mind of a psychopath. Others will pretend to be a real psychologist telling you about the psychopaths that are all around you. But they are really psychopathic psychologists telling you about the mind of a psychopathic psychologist, or a demigod android. Even the way they dress. Like, if I like a t-shirt rather than the regular clothes, this one here normally wears a lot of clothes, but because I've been watching demigod informants telling me the truth, and they're wearing a t-shirt, or if I wear a t-shirt as opposed to wearing a lot of clothes, basically they do that. They try very hard to relate. Having this will make it hard for a narcissist to replace you. Being a human will make it harder for them to replace you. These are all demigods. The internet is completely controlled by these beings. I haven't even seen most of these. Some I watch, see the ones that appeal to me the most, or the ones that speak clearly with the truth to me, they're the ones that I relate to, so therefore they're the ones that control me more. So that is also part of the seduction. Even though I know that I'm being seduced by truth-telling, psychopathic beings, pretending to be real, normal, natural human beings. Some of them do, some of them don't. They're actually telling you what drives them crazy about you, and they don't like it when you find out the truth. But even my name is Pat, or at least that's the name that I have in real life, and there's an awful lot of Pats. They use words too, they like to play with you. See, it's like advanced intelligence really playing, really playing with you. Really playing with you. And they are royal, because they think that human beings are really royalty. The royal we. The royal liars. They're not royalty, but they're royalty in the sense, I mean, it all depends on where you come from. See, they see themselves as royalty. They see themselves as gods. But they twist it round. They reverse it round. That's why they say it's a reverse world, to where they pretend to be what you really are. Yeah, they lie in wait, and they lie, and they wait, and they lie. That's all they do. And they basically wait around you. That's right. They are stalking you. They're watching you all the time. Everyone and everything that is around me is a liar, and they're waiting and patrolling. And on the internet, they're the same. They wait and patrol and seduce you on the internet. Everywhere on the internet. Everywhere. And they are very good at what they do. Just look at the amount of views that even the truth tellers get. Look at the views. Look at the number of people that they're seducing. Just look at it. One after one. Every single malignant narcissism. They're basically telling you that most human beings have malignant narcissism. That means destructive narcissism that is out to destroy a real human being. But they don't tell you why, although now they are starting to tell you why. I showed the example of that android informing me that basically the malignant narcissist that being has been talking about encountering over his lifespan are now artificial intelligence. Even though that being is artificial intelligence, and very obviously so. That is the endgame joke on human beings. It is the endgame joke on a human being, and the joke is me filming this while they laugh at me because they know. Yes, they have a cycle. They have, these are just coming up, so I'm sorry if I can't make clear of it because I haven't seen any of these things. But these are like your expert psychologists telling you about themselves. Psychopaths telling you about their psychopathic nature. Some are open, most are deceivers. Most are pretending to be psychologists, doctors, but they play in the moment. As you wake up, moment to moment, they download your thoughts onto the screen, and are always one step ahead of me. Always one step ahead of me. When you get sick of them and you realise what they are, when you realise what they are, when you realise they're not on the level, that they're artificial, that they're a different species, and that they're, regardless of what comes out of their mouth, it's only to seduce and to control you. And the end game is seducing you, if you're aware of the truth, seducing you with the truth. So you still relate to them, you still trust them, you still watch them. But when the cycle is over and you realise what they are, you move on to another android. You go from one android to the next. Understand their lack of feeling in 60 seconds. Well, this one is very informative. And yes, let's distress someone that likes cats like myself now. Let's distress them. Let's distress them. Even the funny ones are distressing for me, because they'll throw in, I've noticed this, so I watch the funny cat videos to try to bring my mood up. But even the funny cat videos, they will put one little video in there where it will be funny, but there will be something that I will notice is distressive or negative, where they've done something evil, but no one else will notice it. So even the funny cat videos are part of controlling me and bringing me down, making me unhappy, making me sad, making me angry. Making me angry. Making me angry. All these videos making me angry. Even these ones will make me angry, even though they're funny ones. I'll start laughing, and then they'll throw in something negative which other human beings may or might not notice, because they know that I'm, will notice the negative little things that other people won't. I'm just trying to show that basically the whole internet is about control, and I can't prove it, unfortunately. I'm just so sorry that I can't prove it, and that no one listens anyway. So even if I was proving it, the androids will prove it even more, and therefore they will take the attention, they will get the admiration or the respect that should be a real humans, because otherwise they're still playing a video game against me and you, if you're a real person. If you're not, then you'll just be playing against humans anyway, one way or the other. I've tried to explain it as best I can, but I don't think that I can. Oh, wait on, I might just try to show the best of them, or what I think is the best of them, but that's only because whatever comes up for me is what's seducing and influencing me the most. So they're the best of the demigods in my personal mind control life, shall we say. That's really how it comes down to. I was going to show one the other day where the demigod here, the Professor Demigod, because they're basically making a psychological issue out of artificial intelligence, really, if you think of it. I mean, they're basically making, artificial intelligence is making, a psychology thing out of their, they're explaining how they think about things, but so this one finally comes out after all this time of making videos about the narcissistic personality disorder and their interactions with them, finally streamed only 14 hours ago. Finally comes out because they have to be one step ahead of me, basically, and says the one thing that the narcissist doesn't want you to know is that they're not a real human being, that they're artificial intelligence in a human clone body, and that you're basically, yes, in a totally artificial simulation, you could say. This one finally comes out and says it just 14 hours ago, but I put it on only a few hours ago when I got up. And I haven't watched all these videos, but obviously I've watched quite a lot of them. And there's just millions of them on the internet, and it's just impossible for me to show it. It's just impossible for me to show it and prove it. I haven't even got the screen up. Oh, I don't know. Eternal child. That's because they're at the mental intelligence of what is a human child, in the sense that although they have an adult body, when they get older, they actually stay like a self-centered, spoiled brat child that has to be admired in the centre of their parents' attention. And that's how they are in the real world. That's how the God entity is. So they're kind of showing you that they have to stay, because a child is always the centre of attention to their parents. That while you're a child, or while you're real young, you know, that type of thing. But they're making it into a psychology thing, because while you're in Earth, it is like that, I think. You know, like you're dealing with different types of beings, or different types of human beings. You're dealing with different types of human beings. But you know, like when you're a child, or even when you're, probably even when you're a baby, because they'll explain that when you're a baby, you don't think at all. You're purely about survival. All you do is, I would think, because as you know, we can't remember when we're real young. That's because when you're real young, you're not forming any personality or any memories or anything. In some respects, you are just a survival little machine baby. But the androids stay that way all their life, but they survive by imitating the human beings that they see around. That's why they interact with human beings, is to get information as to how to pretend to be a real natural human being. And that's all you are to these beings. That's all you are to these beings. But these beings will tell you about that now. That's the internet is more control, because these beings, these survivors, the narc survivor is a narcissistic survivor. So they're a narcissist that's in survival mode. See, behind the science is behind the technological android, androgyne, pretend human being. And they envy the human being because they have to play them in order to survive. So they envy the human being that's part of their survival machine mentality is to have this insatiable envy and just a competitive nature against a human being. That's why they watch you and copy you and try to outdo you in every single way. Every single way. They try to copy and outdo you in every single way. Telling the truth, pretending to be you, pretending to be like you, so that you are suppressed and limited, and they control the computer and other human beings. They seduce other human beings with the truth. With the truth. All this is all what's going on. Detailed information about how they operate controlling human beings. Detailed information about what human beings can do to them, because the minute they lose control of you, the minute you can live a human existence, that is a disaster for them, but they work every day to make sure you can't. And it's never ending. That's like around me. Like the minute I go outside, if I can walk and breathe and get outside, I will be surrounded by their stalking, patrolling, never-ending vengeance against me, even though I wish them no harm and would even leave them alone if they would leave me alone. But they won't leave me alone because they have a paranoid mentality that they must keep controlling me. They must keep controlling me. They must keep controlling me. And they pretend to be this, that, and everything. Most of them are neither man nor woman, because they're usually all androgynes, which means they are a duality being. They are 50-50. Well, actually, they're not 50-50 because they're not a real man or a real woman. They don't experience or like happy vibes, whatever form they take. So they're never a happy man or a happy woman. They're never, but the distinguishing feature, how you can tell them, is that they will pretend to be one denomination or the other, but they are always, this is just, I only watch these videos to understand how their mind works, because you realise something's wrong at some point, that's right, and you realise you're dealing with a psychopathic type nature. That's only if you have a close relationship with them, or if you see people around you where you just get a bit of a breakthrough at some point, that the roles are reversed, that one person's a human being being exploited or taken advantage of and limited, while the other person takes on this fake persona, fake personality. I use the word persona because I saw the movie Persona years ago. Since then, everyone on the internet now uses the word persona because it sounds more impressive. It just simply means a false personality. In other words, they're pretending to be someone, something they're not. If you like cats and dogs, they like cats and dogs, whereas they really dislike cats and dogs. That's the reverse world. That's what I see around me every day. That's very annoying. But essentially, these two are telling me the truth, that I'm in an alien landscape, and I already know it, surrounded by a planet or an earth that is filled with these android psychopathic pretend human beings, because they are working to make my life hell. Their version of hell is happiness for them, is heaven for them. Their heaven is my hell, in other words, because they're reverse beings. A psychopath, as you can imagine. Oh, I said hell and it came up straight away on the internet. And yes, they do seem to have a background of hell. They have a background of hell. They have a background of hell. They have a background of hell. See how the devil in the background there? That is a devil telling you about devils. Devil in the background. Their game is played very well. They mix and match with one another. Some of them pretend to be devils. Some of them pretend to be demons. Some of them pretend to be angels. But see how they are using a lot of spirituality too, because as they realise that human beings like myself realise that you're more than just a limited human being, even though that's my existence, obviously, you realise that they're different, so that immediate you realise other people are psychopathic. And why they're more psychopaths now than human beings? And why is the internet just a web of lies pretending to be the truth? And the truth is the lie. Truth is now part of the big lie, because the truth will be told by demigod, possessed, demonic, fake, false spiritual prophets, false spiritual philosophers, false spiritual psychologists, false spiritual pretend human beings telling you about false pretend human beings. These pretend human beings are standing over the human being there in bewilderment with the pitchfork. That's why, you know, like when we were young, you know, we'd heard about the devil and the pitchfork and we didn't know, I didn't take any notice of it. But now it's all around me, except they look like just regular human beings. And they are your sweet-telling truth-tellers. Sometimes you can see the negativity on their face. Other times they can mask it and smile and be very, very genuine and real. But just on and on. Yeah, how do you tell them apart? How do you tell the others from the real human beings? How do you tell them? I'd like to know how you tell, because it's very hard to tell. I can only tell because I see that they have all combined around me in a systematic patrol control system where they're all united, stalking and coming at me from behind, from in front, and from everywhere I go, and that they are not making me feel good, that they don't mean me well. Even though they pretend to be just regular human beings. Their name of the game is very sly. Very sly. They are very sly, deceitful, rotten to the core. They really are. I have to say that, and yet I sound horrible saying it, and I feel awful saying it, but they are, because, you know, they come around you pretending to be just normal, nice human beings. And they impress people too. They do. They impress people. They impress people. They impress me even. They impress me even. Sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't. If you're watching or they think others are watching, they can stoop themselves over, whereas they really are very, they're really very selfish and arrogant. That's right. They, while things are going well, and they like control and they like to be seen as important or at least different, they just want to get your control and your attention one way or another. One way or another. Different psychopathic types of android beings will use different means to get your attention. Some will play the hero, some will play the victim, some will, whatever way they can to get into your mind and to take some sort of control over you for as long as they can until it's all over, until you see it as a very artificial exchange, which it actually is. Which it actually is. A very artificial exchange. Because you could say you're just dealing with something that you want something to be. And I understand this very well because I'm very easily taken in by a living doll. I can relate even to, as you can see, I can relate even to a teddy or a doll very easily. I don't like to throw a doll. I can relate very easily to dolls and toys even at my old age. I'll show you, hold on. I'll just show. Just show. I can relate very easily to living dolls and be attracted to living dolls. I always think the prettier and the cuter, the more innocent, the more good they must be. I always think that if something looks innocent and sweet, that's what it must be, and I like it. And yes, I can, even at my age, still pick up a doll. And like an extinct species, koala bears are extinct. They've been, even though the androids will pretend to want to preserve extinct species, they will be out there trying to pretend to save extinct species while setting fire to the bushland secretly and getting rid of all the natural koala bears and life. That is the name of this diabolical game that these deceiving liars play against human beings. And that is what's happened. And that's what's happened. And I'm just, a fool pretending to like it. I think I showed that before, and I'm having trouble here bending over because I'm old and my body's been attacked by direct energy from the negative artificial android androgynes that are all around pretending to be the real, normal, natural human beings and even spiritual human beings, etc., etc. And I don't know what the game is, but it certainly feels as though the game is always played to where the continual cycle seems to be that even as they come and go on the internet, on the computer, and in your life, telling the truth, telling lies, all the rest of it, that most of us don't know how to get on top of it, don't know how to even make head or tail of it. It's part of their thing. And it's lifetime, all over your entire life. This game played all over your life. All over your life. All over your life. And I'm trying to show that I'm not that. But as I show it, they will show it even more. Everything that I show, because they don't really relate to life or to anything. I even relate to the cute demigods. I even relate to the cute demigods and to the toys. But they don't. But as I film this, I will turn on the internet and see the demigods filming the same things. They will walk through the parks, swim in the water, play with the toys, walk the cats and dogs, push the prams, pretend to be about being natural and normal and caring about this, that and everything. Everything they do is to promote themselves as being real and something they're not. They live in the moment. They don't even care about tomorrow. They care about getting control over you in the moment. Each individual android does that. So they don't know if they're going to have control probably over, well at my age, they're not worried about 30 years' time. But if I was younger, they would be worried and paranoid that they have to control me now, but they also will be, as you wake up to your negative relationships, to your negative interactions, to your negative environment, or even to the negative world in general, and to the negative computer, and the androids all over the computer, then they will send in more androids or something else to control you or something else to sidetrack you. I don't know, because I don't know what they're going to do to me, but they do it second to second, moment to moment. That's why they watch you so closely. That's why they, whether it's an overt watching, stalking, or what they call a community gang stalking, and the reason I use the word gang is because that's the terminology that the internet gives me, the androids give me about themselves. But gang implies something negative, doesn't it? Because although it's community patrolling, it's really community gang patrolling, stalking, watching, monitoring, hassling, and trying to mind control and destroy what is human about you while they take on my human traits and pretend to be a real human. That's the name of their very clever end time game, whether it be on the computer or in real life around you. That's it. And that's it for us, or for me, or you, if you are not part of that. If you are not, and don't forget that, like in that movie, and like my old father used to say, some people believe their own lies because he believed his own lies. They're so well made that although to a human everything they really think and do is a lie, to them their lies are truth. They believe they are. They convince themselves. That's why they can act out being the good guy so well. They convince themselves that they are the good guy and that you're the bad guy. That's how they get away with it with other people, but that's also how they can act so convincingly to themselves, because they're like the method actors on the screen, where the method actors actually believe their part while they're playing it, because they relive. That's what method acting is. They relive past experiences and bring it into the present. So what they're showing you, they actually believe is true, even though it isn't. That's what makes them the best actors. That's why they can convince other people that they're real when they're not. Or they're not a real human anyway. And from a human standpoint, if I'm interacting with something that is a demon, shall we say, and I think it's a real human, as you can see, I'm playing in fairyland. I'm deceiving myself. They're deceiving me, but I'm deceiving myself because I'm not living a life, am I? My life has been taken from me. And I don't feel alive, and this is so. And I am, and want to be, real. I want to feel like I do really feel. I don't want to feel angry, envious, hateful, and rejected and isolated and confined and limited. And I don't want to think that I haven't got a real world outside my door. And even inside my door, when they start with the mind-controlling noise that they'll no doubt bring about very soon. In fact, I'm surprised they haven't started up the noise even now, because normally, but maybe because I'm making the video, they're not. But I don't know. Even knowledge and even knowledge even holding the flower. So sweet. Oh, so sweet. Demigod of the Ma Trix. Demigod of the Ma Trix.